On today's Hot Sheet, I'm discussing the impact of this ongoing government shutdown on new construction, the September luxury housing report, and mortgage applications for the past week. Today is Wednesday, October 29, 2025. I am Byron Lazine, and the Hot Sheet starts now. Welcome in live from Naples, Florida. Looking forward to being here with you guys. It is a pleasure. It is officially Fed Day. Jerome Powell and the Fed committee are meeting today for the second day in a row to make their rate cut decision. I think I had a dream last night that the Fed did a 50 basis point cut. The expectations are 25 basis point cut. So probably not a dream that'll come true. We'll break it all down here tomorrow. So we do this every Thursday morning after the Fed meets, after the press conference with Jerome Powell and the press, and we'll break it all down. We'll pull from the transcript all of the housing mentions, all of the shelter real estate mentions, so you don't have to do that. We'll also take out the high-level economic Q&As, how that's going to impact rates going forward. Is there a succinct plan? How is the market going to react? We've had momentum here. We got a 10-year under 4, leading up to the Fed meeting. We often see this thing pop up after 4 with a lack of a plan. We have a 30-year fix right near a year-to-date low. I mean, check this out yesterday. 30-year fix coming in at 6.13. That's at year-to-date low. I'm sorry. That's right on the money with year-to-date low. We've got this momentum again that we saw right before the meeting last, 6 weeks ago. And this momentum, if attached to a plan where investors can believe in the future from the Fed, highly unlikely, I know, but if attached to a real plan, could lead to more momentum on the 10-year. And on the mortgage rates. And that could get us into high 5 handle territory going into the end of the year. I went back and forth with somebody on IG. He's an LO. He's a smart guy. He's just letting his political beliefs cloud the way he thinks about inflation. He took that inflation report, CPI, which the market, obviously said, this is great. It beat expectations. Boom, go Dow, set a new record this week. The market thought the inflation was in a great spot. Why? Because it is. Because they're smarter than some partisan person on IG. Yeah, I said it. The market's smarter than some partisan LO on IG. For sure, just because you want inflation to be bad because of your political leanings, it doesn't mean it is bad, okay? It was at 9% a few years ago, and now it's at 3%. It was at 3.1% year over year a month ago. Now it's at 3% year over year. It beat expectations. The market loved the report. The market said if it didn't beat expectations, if it was hotter than expectations, then maybe we'd probably be, selling equities. You'd probably see a 10-year bumping up, and I wouldn't be talking about a year-to-date 30-year fixed low. Inflation's in a good spot generally. Yeah, things are expensive. That's what happens when the government prints all that money. Prices aren't going down. Inflation means prices go up forever and always. Don't get that confused. People keep confusing themselves with that. So I did a little back and forth. Hey, let's debate this out. Like, you think inflation is like on some kind of runaway train? Because he's talking about this post from a week ago saying, well, the 10-year is about to go up. Oh, the 30-year fixed, going to get out of control. You're going to watch. You're going to see 10-year off of this inflation report kind of get out of control. Yeah, no, we're basically year-to-date lows. In fact, we've got really good momentum on this up until Jerome Powell potentially screws it up tomorrow. Highly possible. highly possible, but really right at year-to-date lows on the 10-year. Just showed you the 30-year fix. That is at year-to-date low. No, the inflation report has nothing to do, has I guess some to do with these low numbers, but it has, there is no credibility to, oh, inflation's in a really bad spot. It's not the case, and you'll probably see Jerome Powell hopefully acknowledge that if he's being truthful with the people tomorrow. Okay. Let's get into this government shutdown. We're starting to see some impacts here. Boy, I really hope these two sides can get it together. They're continuing to draw their lines in the sand. It's like when I just think of Congress, I just think of a bunch of kids in a sandbox stealing each other's toys and slapping each other and crying. And they've now drawn a line in that sandbox and they are just refusing to budge. It's silly. I'm not going to blame one side or the other. The one side has tried to vote to end the government shutdown, I think 12, 13 times, and they keep getting kind of stopped. But really, it's really come down to how they treat each other. They don't treat each other well. And we're starting to see impacts in housing. Okay. And that's kind of what I care about. So Realtor.com reports that new home construction is coming to a standstill if this government shutdown continues. Like, builders are not going to be able to move. What Realtor.com has identified as the biggest issue in housing, 4 million homes short to meet demand, and it's going to take years to get there anyways. And a pause like this only kind of extends that timeline of getting the amount of inventory that Realtor.com has identified we need. I think, and we'll have Danielle Hale on late November, early December. She, as Realtor.com comes out with their 2026 projection, we'll have her on the Knowledge Brokers podcast to kind of dig through some of this stuff. But I think the inventory is really like, we don't need it in the Sunbelt states. We need it in the North. We need it in the North. So, and we need it in certain price points. And Danielle Hale, who I was with last week, did mention the price, like we need $250,000 homes. So it's like, you put $4,700,000 homes. Who does that help? Probably not a lot of people, right? We unfortunately need $250,000 homes, and we need them in the North. We need them in the Northeast, where inventory is struggling and where they don't build. So, as this, I think we're in the 4 weeks now on the government shutdown. Nearly 1,300 individual permits for construction projects of all sizes remain pending review of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. So that's not even including the 1,700 plus additional permits under Section 404 of the Clean Water Act, which are awaiting federal sign-off. That number, 1,700 plus on the Clean Water Act for federal sign-off, that's just Florida alone. Okay, that's not the other 49 states. So that's just to give you a little look there of, how much is being kind of held up here. America's housing market, again, already 4 million homes short. So any permitting bottleneck just extends that shortage, deepens that shortage. So permitting and environmental process review. Okay, so you've got environmental permitting and review process, which runs through multiple agencies, including the EPA and the Environmental Agency, Army Corps of Engineer, Fish and Wildlife Service, the Department of Interior. Okay, so these are all agencies that are not, putting any permits or reviewing any permits through while we're in a government shutdown. Okay, so how does, every shutdown that I've, I haven't been a part of any of these. Okay, don't come after me. I'm not in DC. That I've lived through and done business through, they have not really seemed like they've made an impact. Now, this one, 28 days, I think is the longest one in memory. Maybe somebody in the chat can fact check me on that, but I think we're now getting into like record territory or near record territory on the length of this government shutdown. Okay, so why have I not felt like government shutdowns have impacted anything in the past? Well, it's because they weren't very long. You can see where there's going to be some long-term impacts as it relates to the building community for sure. We've already seen, flood insurance impacts throughout the initial. If you're in a shoreline community, you're working properties that have flood insurance, you've already experienced that a little bit here early on. But now we're starting to see some of, this information bubble up, which suggests, oh yeah, we're going to have long-term impacts on building. And we know we need to keep building in this country. And we kind of need to figure that thing out for the long term. Okay, nearly 90% of EPA staff has been furloughed under this contingency plan. Most environmental permits, inspections, and reviews are paused. So environmental permits and inspections, that definitely impacts commercial too. So we're not just talking about residential here. Smaller construction projects that disturb less than half an acre can proceed under nationwide permits, NWPs. All right, so Denton Realtor says longest was December 2018 to January 2019, which was 35 days. So I was definitely, listen, I remember end of 2019 being a great year. So we can have a great year in 2026, even with this government shutdown. 2019 was a great year for me. I don't know about for you, but that was a good year. So, 35 days. So we're coming up on that. Yep. And Gary Ashton from Nashville, who's got all the intel, has confirmed Denton Realtor's 35-day mark there on the longest. So we probably will break that record. It seems like that's going to happen. Builders back in pulled authorizations for approximately 1.3 million housing units in August. That figure represents 3.7 monthly decline from July, 11% drop from a year earlier. That's a seasonally adjusted number. Housing starts fell to a seasonally adjusted annual rate of 1.3 million. Starts declined to 8.5% month over month and 6% year over year. So the big impact states, here you go, Florida, Texas, North Carolina, California. These 4 states represent more than 40% of new home permits. Now, I guess you could argue in the Floridas and the Texases in particular that maybe a little slowdown on build. I mean, they like to build down here. Maybe a little slowdown might help the market neutralize a bit. I don't think it'd be a bad thing necessarily down here if they have a reason to tell Wall Street, hey, we had to pump the brakes here. Government shutdown slowed things down. All they need is quarterly cover of why things didn't. If they were to say we took a break just because we felt like it, that'd be bad. Wall Street would bail. Stock goes down. But if they've got this government shutdown to, provide a little cover, hey, we had to take a break on permits because of the shutdown. We're waiting on DC. Now investors can say, oh, they got cover and maybe the stock doesn't take as big of a hit. But I think for an inventory perspective, taking a little bit of a beat, especially on the Gulf Coast in Florida, in particular, in certain areas in Texas, it could be positive. Okay. Russell Riggs, he's a senior regulatory representative for NAR. Heard of him? Neither have I. He says right now the impact has been minimal, but the longer the shutdown goes, the more those reviews and permitting procedures are going to start clogging up. After 4 weeks, you really start seeing the impacts very clearly. Okay, so if Russell from NAR is right on this, and I don't have any reason to believe that he's not, then the work that NAR is doing right now, and you probably maybe missed the story because nobody really reads NAR, realtor dot or whatever they are, NAR.realtor, something like that. I read it, maybe one of the last few that reads it. They put out a piece of information here yesterday, and yesterday, the day before, about some of the work that they're doing from the advocacy department. If you're looking at, kind of NAR value, I like to look, at advocacy first. It's certainly an important component of what NAR does. It's helped a lot of homeowners and a lot of agents over the years. And right now, some of the advocacy work is going to state and local boards. and kind of driving a campaign of reaching out to local Congress members, say, hey, get it together, get the shutdown over with, so that we don't have long-term impacts. Right now, as this quote here from Russell Riggs suggests, like, there's been a minimal impact. We're starting to see it in builders. Realtor.com's reporting that. The longer it goes, the impacts, you start to see them more clearly. They start to show up more and more. Evan Bronowski, Environmental Policy Program Manager at NAHB, National Association of Home Builders. Without the federal rulemaking process continuing, the delays the time period until we see a final rule. That delays. So there's, I mean, unfortunately, there's a lot of regulation tied up in permitting. I mean, I don't believe we should do away with permitting, but you can see there's a lot of reliance in some of these cases on the federal government, on some of this stuff. Maybe we should take that out of the hands of the federal government. Now, local municipalities, some of them have screwed this up just as much as the Fed has, as the federal government has. Jake Krimmel, a Realtor.com senior economist who works alongside Danielle Hale, says even in normal times, environmental reviews result in construction delays. Even in normal times, we have construction delays, unfortunately, and added costs for builders, layering government shutdown related delays on top of recent lumber tariffs, meaning that builders are facing yet another cost increase. Now, I know those partisan TikTokers who kind of trickle over to IG. I don't find them on TikTok. I find them when they trickle over to IG or somebody sends it to me. I know they'll tell you boo-hoo on the builders, okay? But the reality is the prices are where they are because of the high regulation that they're dealing with. And this is just another cost that the builders are going to have to figure out how to make sense of in this market. Okay. By the way, buyers are like, hey, it's wintertime, I'll sit on the sidelines. Sellers are like, hey, it's wintertime, I'll sit on the sidelines. It's going to get a little icy this winter. The sooner we can get out of a government shutdown and get people's confidence going back in the right direction, the better, not only for housing, but for most markets across America. All right. September 2025, Realtor.com's luxury housing report is out, and they're saying, hey, there's more for your money right now. So maybe this winter is a good time to take advantage if you are a buyer sitting on the sidelines. Maybe this is information that you should be getting out to your customers and clients. Let's look at the September 2025 luxury trends as it sits here today. Okay. The luxury benchmark has dipped slightly. National luxury threshold, the 90th percentile, declined 0.5% month over month and 2.4% year over year to $1.24 million, marking a fourth consecutive month of modest softening. It's easier to get into luxury. I like that. Feeling more luxurious by the moment. Homes in the 90th percentile spent a median of 79 days on the market, 1 day longer than August and 5 days longer than a year ago. So a little bit longer days on market for luxury homes in the 90th percentile. And that makes sense if you're going to see, if you're seeing that price come down a little bit, DOM goes up. We know supply is the biggest pressure you can have on price. If it is bigger than demand, those DOMs would show us that. Santa Barbara, metros now lead all U.S. luxury markets with a 90th percentile of $8.95 million. Luxury values vary widely. So $1 million to a $2 million budget yields a median 3,000 square feet nationally, but more than 4,500 square feet in Atlanta. So, okay, Atlanta, $1 million gets you more than where I'm sitting here today in Naples, right? And so on and so forth. So here's the luxury price points that we're seeing across the country. Okay, so $10 top 1% starts at 5.41 million. So luxury homes across America, if you're in the top 1% of luxury homes, that's 5.4 million. Remember, the national median is about 4.25. Okay. And if you're in the top 5%, you're at a basically just under $2 million, $1.95 million home and above to be in the top 5% of luxury price points across America. Top 10% starts at $1.24 million. I'd argue that, hey, that 1.24 million in like 15, 20 years, that's going to feel more like the median. I'm telling you, like these prices aren't going anywhere. $1 million will feel more like a median price point versus the 425, certainly in 15, 20 years. Don't hold me to that projection, but I got a feeling I'll be right there. Top 10 markets by the 90th percentile listing. Okay, here we go. Top 10 markets. Santa Barbara, Santa Maria Metro. You've got Heber, Utah. Key West, Key Largo, Florida. You've got basically Fairfield County in Connecticut. They're calling it Bridgefield through Stamford. That's Fairfield County. That's your Darien and Westports and, Greenwich and that type of thing there. You got LA, Long Beach, Anaheim. So, kind of your shoreline LA area there. You've got Hawaii on the list, San Jose, Santa Rosa, Barnstable, and then where I'm sitting here today in Naples, pulling up at number 10 for the top 10. So like Naples to 10 most expensive listings start in Naples at 3.3 million. Again, the top, Santa Maria, 8.9 million. And then kind of everybody's sitting in that most are sitting in that 3 million range. Fairfield County, Connecticut at 4.2 million, Key West 4.6, Heber, Utah at 6.5 million as an outlier there. Okay, so while luxuries come down a little bit, these prices are obviously still really high, and here are the median days per price tier. Okay, so top 10%, 79 days on market. Top 5%, 88 days on market. Top 1%, 103 days on market. Median price is 62 days on market. Like this isn't that crazy. These numbers have been bigger in the past. So if you get a luxury listing, you're helping a luxury client, like the expectations to sale, there are buyers out there. We've seen, at 4 million transactions, wherever the biggest increases, not the most sales, but the biggest increases come when we look at that. The biggest increases have come up over 750,000, up over $1 million. Like there's buyers in that category, right now. And the days on market for that category don't scare me that much. It's not going to be a weekend thing on a $5 million home, but knowing you can get it done within a 100-day window, if you're, kind of relatively serious about the price, that's encouraging. And that's better than what it's been in history. All right. At certain points in history, anyway, more for your money. If you're looking to be luxurious in a market that provides more for the money, that'd be, here's your top 10: Atlanta, Denver, Minneapolis, or top 5 anyway, Houston and Dallas. So there's your top 5 where you can get more for your money at these luxury price points, more square footage for your money. Least square feet for the money would be in Honolulu, San Jose, San Francisco, LA, and then New York City. Of course, you're not going to get much for it there. All right, there's your luxury update from Realtor.com. What's happening in the luxury market? Let's look now at what's going on with mortgage applications for the past week. Great mortgage momentum here over the past 7 days. Yesterday now hitting a year-to-date match low on the 30-year fixed rate. Yes, that's after that CPI report on Friday that was supposed to push him up. Everybody looking at that objectively knew that that wasn't the case. And look what's happened actually with mortgage applications. This is interesting. For this time of year, it's very interesting. Mortgage apps increased 7.1% from 1 week earlier. Okay, that's on the headline. So that includes the increase on refinances, which we know year over year, we continue to see an increase on refinances. The refinance index did increase 9% from the previous week. It was 11% higher than the same week a year ago. What do we care about? You know what we care about. It's that purchase side. And the purchase index increased 5% from 1 week earlier. Okay, we're continuing to see double-digit growth on the year over year. We have double-digit weeks on double-digit growth. I always say to new agents, what's the thing you got to do? Like, what's the first thing you got to do as quickly as you can? Double-digit sales, double-digit reviews. So I like this back-to-back double-digit. We've got double-digit growth, 20% higher than the same week a year ago for double-digit weeks. I think that's 26, 28 weeks, something like that. The 5% here, okay, the 5% from 1 week earlier on the purchase index, very encouraging for this time of year when you get that seasonal decline. Okay, maybe that speaks to some of that data that we looked at it just on Monday when we saw a little pop on pendings. Is that, is there something going on funny with the data? Well, mortgage purchase applications would kind of back that. And so if you get into a high 5 handle, regardless of the time of year, could you see a scenario where these applications go up? I mean, maybe the 5 handle happens in January and the applications are just going up. And, it's possible, right? Because we haven't seen a 5 handle in quite some time. And mortgage applications haven't recovered back to normal times in quite some time. We're still living at, GFC level applications, late 90s level of mortgage applications in order for this number to get back to a normal amount of buyers pulling a mortgage application. We got to continue to see movement to the downward side of the 30-year fixed. Okay. 30-year fixed, again, sitting at that near year-to-date low at 6.13. We're getting a Fed decision here today. Really looking forward to that. Looking forward to being with all of you, wherever you may be tomorrow, live on the hot sheet as we break down every little bit of the Q&A, the prepared statements from Jerome Powell. Does he have a plan? Are we going to keep this momentum on the 10-year and the 30-year? A lot of it hinges on what Jay Powell says this afternoon. Be looking forward to that. But before then, I'd love to invite you into a couple of things we have going on today. Today, 4 o'clock, we have BAMX onboarding for new members, 4 p.m. If you're not a new member, you want to join the onboarding and just kind of get more familiar with what's going on in school and all of the new stuff that we keep adding into BAMX in school. Join us 4 o'clock today. Onboarding myself, Eric Simon, the broke agent, and the entire BAM team will be on this call. Following that, for BAMX members only, we've got Jordan Cohen, the #1 solo RE/MAX agent in the world. We actually have the #1 RE/MAX team leader in the world, Gary Ashton, here in the live chat, or at least he was earlier. But Jordan Cohen, #1 solo agent in the world, over 300 million annual sales at RE/MAX. He's a high luxury. I mean, those prices that we put up, 8 million, 6 million, those are peanuts for Jordan. He's 20 million and above. He's going to be jamming with Chris Benjamin on how he wins from a mindset perspective and how he positions to the market so he can close at the highest level. So that's going to be happening at 4:30 every single week inside of BAMX. We do live role play, members only, 9 a.m. Eastern, right before the hot sheet. Myself, Tom Toole, Lisa Shiny, to help you convert at a higher level. Every week you get new content. You don't know what to post, don't know when to post, how to post. You don't have hyper local content to post. Every Friday we just drop a ton of new content for you that's relative, that's timely, that can be, specific to you, edited to you and to your market, branded to you, rather, to you in your market. Every Friday we drop that. Every day in the hot sheet classroom, dropping all of the slides that I use, as well as the replay. So you have those at your fingertips for one-on-one communications with your customers. And of course, the community and features like Zoodealio included in. We're paying you to be inside of BAMX when you include Zoodealio at a $2,400 value. But if you want to get in on the Jordan Cohen call today and the onboarding and everything else we got going on, you can try it for free. I'll let you try it for free. Just use the link down below, school.com/BAMX. Try it out for free for the next 7 days. Do it now, school.com/BAMX. And I'll see you on the mastermind today at 4 o'clock. And then 4:30, obviously, with the Jordan Cohen. All right, tomorrow, big day. Make sure you're subscribed. We're breaking down Jay Powell and everything he says about housing and the economy's future. I'll see you then. Until then, toodaloo.